The following program is a public access production of Andrea Fusco, who assumes full responsibility for its content. The content of this program does not represent the views of Auburn Regional Media Access, which serves as a forum for community expression and offers TV training, production facilities, and channel time to all Auburn area residents and organizations.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of First Person with Andrea Fusco. Today in our studio, we'd like to welcome Ian Phillips, a 126th district candidate for the New York State Assembly. Running on the Democratic and Working Families lines, he's vying for this position for the second time against Republican incumbent John Lamondes, who's also been invited to appear on this program, but we have not yet had a response. Thank you for joining us here today. So let's start with your decision to run again in 2026. What factors influenced this move?
Yeah, so I spent a long time thinking about it, talking with my wife especially, and I kind of came back to one conversation that I had on the doors right towards the end. I was door knocking in Elbridge actually, and I came upon a couple, and as soon as I walked up, they said, "Are you with Trump or are you not with Trump?" And I said, "Hey, I'm running as a Democrat, but I'd love to talk to you." And we got to talking, and they talked about some challenges that they had with accessing healthcare. They had lost a daughter to some healthcare conditions, and they had this belief that if Trump got in office, that there was going to be some real medical breakthroughs that they were going to be able to access. And the woman at the end of that conversation, though, said, even if this medical breakthrough that I've heard about is true, and I believe that Biden is withholding it from us, I don't think it'll go to people like me. She was, they were in the mobile home parks that are across from the speedway there.
Oh, yes.
And I bring that up because to me it was real evidence that regardless of your party or your background, we have some real commonality of concerns. But we also have a commonality in that people don't believe that their government is really working for them, really cares about their problems, is really interested in delivering real solutions for them. And people are desperate for that, right? And so I kept thinking about conversations like that one, like so many others, in that I want to be an assembly person that is really delivering real solutions for people, not just rhetoric. And I think that's all too uncommon in our politics right now. You hear politicians of both sides kind of say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then there's really no follow through, right? And so we get in these protracted fights, and we don't realize that we do have more in common with one another than we have as differences. So I'm hoping that I can kind of bring those shared values, which I believe are Central New York values, couple them with some real solutions, and deliver to make Central New York more affordable and more livable into the future.
And those are some excellent goals, and I think that which people are highly concerned about right now. And also you mentioned we have more in common than maybe differences sometimes with whatever parties you're involved with. And it used to be that way. Why don't you think it's that way anymore?
Well, Mrs. Fusco, you were my teacher 25 years ago. I was in your journalism class, and you're absolutely right. I had no idea what my teachers, my coaches, my mentors, I had no idea what their politics were. It was completely irrelevant, right? They were good teachers, they were good neighbors, they were good mentors, right? It was not the focus of every moment of every life, right? And we could spend the whole program talking about social media and attention economy and all the different things that are designed to kind of really put us at odds with each other to draw us apart. But when you have real conversations with people that are more than 30 seconds or a tweet length or whatever, you come to realize that people want to have a home that they're comfortable in. They want a better life for their kids and their families. They don't want to be knocked sideways if they get diagnosed with a medical condition they can't afford.
Yes.
They want to be able to either send their kids to college or make sure that they're going to have a career that hopefully can keep them here in Central New York. None of those things are exclusive to Democrats or Republicans or independents. These are things that we all care about.
Yes.
And we spend so much time fighting about the things that we do have disagreements on that we never kind of solve those things. You and I were talking as we sat down and about what housing prices have done, right, over the last 30 to 40 years. And I come from an education background. I didn't teach as long as you did, but I taught for a few years. And starting teacher salary 20 years ago was $31,000.
Yeah.
Today in Auburn, it's $51,000. And the buying power of that, though, has decreased by 18%. More and more in Central New York, even people with good jobs, like 2 teachers starting out, it's harder and harder for them to buy into Central New York, right? That's not Democrat or Republican. That's just common sense. We've got to deal with it.
It's kind of universal.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So we were talking about housing and healthcare, and what are the issues on which you're planning to focus?
Yeah, so I would say
Dive into that.
there's 3 big categories. I will say the first one, this is a district that has 3 Finger Lakes in it. It's the most Finger Lakes, and there's 7 or 8 smaller lakes also in this district. All of them are affected by harmful algal blooms. So I would say near the top, if not the top issue, is protecting our clean drinking water, our clean sources of recreation in our lakes. We need a real champion that is going to fight against harmful algal blooms. The second one, we touched upon it earlier, is really working for a living, provide a real living, right? And so that's housing, that's healthcare, that's being able to afford your utilities. So we have to tackle each one of those things separately, but really rewarding people that work 40 hours a week should be able to live here in Central New York and have a decent life. The third one, and I think they're connected, is getting big money out of our politics, right? I told you that story at the top about people don't think their government's working for them.
Yes.
They're not wrong, right? The influence of big money, as the Supreme Court has kind of stripped away campaign finance laws, is tremendous, right? Utility companies are lobbying for looser and looser rules so that they can jack up your bills. I think that's wrong. So I think we need to get big money out of our politics so that our politicians are not spending so much time thinking about which billionaire or which mega corporation is going to fund their campaign and more about getting things done for people. So those are the 3 things.
Sounds like a plan, because you've certainly heard about, NYSEG and their rates and the concern over them. And it's kind of a common thread.
Yeah.
What do you feel are your strengths as a candidate?
It's not talking about myself and different things. I would say people would say that I genuinely listen to people, and I think that is both a good skill in a candidate, but I think it will serve me well as an assembly person, and it's what distinguishes me, I think, from my opponent as well. I believe this job is to kind of listen to people, talk to people, especially who are doing the hard work or volunteering to preserve our lakes or support our libraries or support our nonprofits or start small businesses. Listen to what challenges that they're having. And then in this role, it's an intermediate size of government. Yes. I go and I can kind of go back to the state level and advocate for solutions, bring resources to bear to kind of lift up those people that are doing the work on the ground level.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Your background, you mentioned teaching. Can you talk a little bit more about that? I'm not sure I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, so right after school, I was doing work as a community organizer in Philadelphia, and I was working to kind of really the height of the foreclosure crisis, and I was doing things to save people's homes, but I was also talking to a lot of parents and grandparents in Philadelphia about the challenges that their school district was facing. And I learned about the teacher shortage, which has only gotten worse since
Yes.
then, from them, and saying, you know, of course my kids or my grandkids are this far behind in reading, math, or whatever the tests say. They haven't had a certified teacher in a number of years. So I took that and I said, you know, what can I do to help? And I heard about a program called Teach for America, which,
okay, I did that.
you know, kind of is an accelerated program to get people into the classroom. In my case, I was selected for this program, and then I went to Detroit, and I taught first I taught in Chicago, summer school. I taught summer school in Chicago as I was kind of getting trained to have a classroom of my own, and then I was in Detroit public schools, and I taught middle school English and social studies in Detroit.
Oh, wow, that's impressive. And how long did you do that for?
About 3 years. Yeah.
About 3 years.
Yeah.
And then did you decide like just to do something else, or that was enough? Or it sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, it was definitely
Yeah.
difficult. I mean, I would say I would still probably be teaching, but for a woman named Betsy DeVos was kind of in charge of the schools in Michigan at that time. And every single year, my first year, everyone with less than 7 years seniority got laid off. And then you had to, I purposely rented right down the street from where I was teaching my first year, right? And then all of us with less than 7 years seniority gets laid off, and we kind of go into a pool and get rehired. And so then I moved across the town and taught at a different school. And then, you know, each year there's some new reform that gets put in place. Very quick story. I'll try to be
Sure.
try to be
Let's
short,
get some
but
insight. Yeah.
in Michigan, they had what was called a count day. They have versions of this in every state. And you get funding based in Michigan, how many students are in your classroom on that particular day, right? It's in like late September.
Yes.
So you go all out, you have carnivals and all these different things to try
attract
to make sure the
people.
attendance is good that day, because it's so
Yeah.
critical. On count day, I had about 25 kids in my 8th grade social studies class. And then state tests are about a month later. They test on the previous year's material.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that's early.
Strange, right?
Yeah.
But a month later, approximately, there's a state testing. So from count day to state testing, my class went from 25 kids to 45 kids in a classroom. You say, where did those kids come from, right?
Yeah.
And so the charter schools, you know, increasingly, Mrs. DeVos thought charter schools were the answer. Those schools would kick out students that had behavior issues, or they thought were going to do poor on state tests, and we would not get any more resources, so we wouldn't be able to add additional staff, additional teachers. So my classroom almost doubled in size to the point where I did not have desks, right? And so then going into my next year, we were told at the time, we've got this new initiative, and it was called Cyber School, and we as teachers were going to sit in the back of the classroom as kids clicked through on computers. This was way before COVID.
I was gonna
but they were
say,
testing, in my opinion now looking back on it, they were testing, hey, can we do this remote schooling and kind of take the teacher out of the equation as much as possible. And my role was just going to be going and seeing how fast kids were going through certain modules.
Oh.
Art and music music, and gym were going to be removed going into my next year. And I wasn't, we all know who've been teachers, your first year maybe your first 2 is not your best, but you're
no.
getting better.
Yeah.
You know, in my second year, my kids grew 2.5 years on average in literacy, so I was really proud. I felt like I was starting to get good at it.
Yeah.
And just the constant churn, I knew I didn't want to leave in the middle of the year and do that to my students.
Yeah.
So I made the tough decision to move back home and do something different.
Well, and that's understandable if you feel like it's not going to go, in
Yeah.
the proper direction, because during COVID there were so many ideas about reimagining education, and it was all about computers, and they found out that kind of didn't work.
Yeah, and I just heard a school district is going to do a little robot teacher. Have you seen this in Salamanca?
Oh, I did see something about that, yes, and I thought maybe I saw it wrong.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, listen, again, you were my teacher my senior year. I wasn't always the best student, but I think about my teachers all the time
Yeah.
who saw me as a human being first, saw kind of the background
Absolutely.
that I had and was coming from, and kind of you have to show you care before you can actually teach.
Oh, absolutely. You have to.
I don't think any robot is going to figure that out.
That's a pretty good assessment, I would think.
Yeah.
You are also president of the Auburn School Board.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about that and how it gave you insight into maybe what you hope to do now.
Yeah, so I ran for school board the first time because Auburn was in the bottom 1% of per pupil funding in New York State. With my background in advocacy, and I thought I could add some value there. Right. And bring some intentionality to try to correct that. Mm-hmm. Because we do have great teachers, we do have great staff, we did at the time, we do today, but we don't always have the resources. So I had moved back. I saw that my alma mater, my school district, had laid off nearly 20% of its staff over the previous decade or so. We had class sizes going up. We had different programs being cut. So I thought, listen, I can get in there. We can make some real deliberate advocacy choices and try to correct that. And so that was a real big focus of when I ran that first time. And we are not in the top 1% of funding from the state, but we're right around the middle
it's
now.
Improved.
Yeah, we're right around the middle in per pupil funding now from the state. So, yes, that was why I initially ran for school board.
Interesting, because that was something I actually used to cover as a newspaper reporter for The Citizen. I covered education. I had to go to all these school board meetings.
Yeah.
You got the best stories after executive session.
Yeah,
but
there's all things that you don't anticipate when you run that come up as well, right?
I'm sure.
Like COVID, for example.
That just threw everyone for a loop. I mean, it honestly did. I was teaching online for CCC at that time. And, not as much fun as being in person.
No.
So what do you hope to accomplish if you're elected? What would be your biggest?
I listed through those same
things.
Same priorities. I think I really believe that in my first year in office, I believe that I can deliver more resources for the Finger Lakes than our current assemblyman has done in the last 6. I don't think that's unrealistic because he has delivered none. So my plan is to really work with folks that will be in the majority. I'll be in the majority, so I'll be in the rooms where decisions are being made. I really believe deeply, we as New Yorkers, I'm a Bills fan, so I say this with all reverence to other Bills fans, but we spent billions of dollars building a new Bills stadium that will open this year, right? That will hopefully be in operation for the next 50 or 60 years, and all Bills fans like me will enjoy that stadium and great. But we have 11 Finger Lakes here. across central New York, and I guess if you count it, western New York. And those are just as essential, more essential, right? And so we need a real investment to save our lakes from becoming so, too polluted that you can't turn it back when they get eutrophic and when they get their phosphorus levels too high.
When it's too late.
Right? So that is going to be a huge focus for me right from the start, to get real investments to kind of turn that tide around. I could keep going on. I would like to pass term limits legislation. It will be a
that's
rough
a hot
haul.
topic.
Yeah, but I'll be introducing term limits legislation on my first day in office, and then I'll work to build a majority to pass that legislation, and do a bunch of things to get big money out of politics and make our government more responsive. And then on affordability, the thing that I want to work on, our broken healthcare system is driving costs, not just in your healthcare, which you might know if you have not so good healthcare, but even if you have good healthcare, we talked about the buying power of people's wages going down.
Oh, absolutely.
It's because all the money is going to the healthcare industry, right? Why are your school taxes going up? Why are your city taxes going up so much? It's because these folks are not getting rich that work for schools. It's because school districts, in some cases, in upstate New York, are paying more for healthcare, for a family healthcare plan, than they are paying in salary for their workers, right? So we really have to tackle that healthcare crisis so that we can put more money in people's pockets.
Balance that out. Let's go back to the Finger Lakes specifically. Okay. What do you think are the most immediate things you can do to help?
I think we need to get real, very, 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 very serious about our runoff problem, right? There's changing science, and in each of our Finger Lakes is different. So there's not a one size fits all solution, but there's a commonality that phosphorus loading, which is both from point sources, but also just from our watershed. So runoff from industrial farming, runoff from, fertilizers and chemicals that people might put on their lawns. We need real remediation strategies and buffers on those. I think the vast majority of people, including farmers, are doing the right thing and trying to protect their land. They don't want their soil to run off, but we need to provide resources to, create these buffers so that runoff does not get into our lakes, and try to turn that around. Atisco Lake, Skaneateles Lake, and Owasco Lake are in this district that I'm representing, so it's very important. Each one of them is different. We have Skaneateles Lake, which is really deep and has a small watershed.
Yes.
And they've been the least affected by harmful algal blooms, but they too are having them, right? And then we have Owasco Lake, which has a huge watershed, right? And is shallower, right? So we have more harmful algal blooms, and Atisco is smaller still and is having harmful algal blooms as we sit here today. We need different strategies, but I think that if we can kind of put some real scientific study, but then also put some money into those buffers, we can start to kind of stem the tide of that phosphorus loading, which will over time lessen the amount of harmful algal blooms we'll have on the lakes.
Yes, thank you. And you are active with the Owasco Lake Watershed Association.
Yep. Yeah.
And I know they've been instrumental in trying to find some solutions.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about these lake associations, and I was at the Atisco Lake Preservation Association is what they're called last night, we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of volunteers that are doing the work. They're kind of filling in those gaps in which government isn't stepping up, right? And so they're raising private money. In some cases, they're buying their own boats, the Skaneateles Lake Association, and paying people to remove invasive species from the lake. In Atisco Lake, they bought a harvester to take the weeds out that were contributing to phosphorus. I'm what's called a geriatric millennial, so I'm the right edge of that thing. So I was
right
raised
on the cusp.
I was raised on Mr. Rogers, and he would say, when things are not going well, you have to help the helpers, right? So these lake associations and the people on them are a primary example of the helpers, right? Or he would say, look to the helpers. And what I kind of have added as my role as an assembly person is to help the helpers,
yes.
right? So it's like, you're doing fantastic work with not a lot of help. If I can get in there and bring resources to bear and really elevate what you are doing as private individuals, mm-hmm. we can start to kind of turn this thing around.
Excellent. Yeah. Any final thoughts that you have about your candidacy and your hopes for the future of Auburn and surrounding areas?
Yeah, I think final thoughts are just, running for office. People sometimes come up to me and say, oh, thank you for doing this. Is so gross and nasty, and thank you for running, right? Mm-hmm. And I want to kind of return that thanks right back to them, because it is nasty, but there's some people that are trying to intentionally make things nasty and talk about things that aren't true, lies, exaggerations. But I really believe that, our democracy is our greatest inheritance that we can pass on to the next generation. Mm-hmm. And it's been instilled by so many mentors here in Auburn over the years that, your duty is to pass things on better than you found them. And when we allow our democracy to kind of be corrupted and torn down and tarnished, we're not leaving it better for the next generation. So I want to thank each and every person who continues to choose to participate, to remain engaged, to get involved in their community, in building people up and building their communities up, and ignoring the folks that sling arrows from the outside and trash everything, right? Yeah. It's so easy to kind of poke fun or scream at people on the internet. It takes real effort. Someone said democracy is the slow work of long and boring meetings, right? But that is truly what is, can build our democracy back up. I'm excited to participate in it, and I'm excited to continue to get to know my neighbors, hear their concerns, and come up with solutions with them.
Well, thank you so much, Ian Phillips, for being with us today. And
thank you so much.
Have a great day, and it was fun being your teacher.
Yeah. It was fun being your student.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you again for joining us today on First Person with Andrea Fusco. Today in our studios we have had 126th District Assembly candidate Ian Phillips. As we mentioned, we have reached out to his opponent, John Lamondes, and we hope to hear from him so that he can possibly appear on the program. Election Day is November 3rd. Keep that in mind as you watch particular programming and enjoy your evening. Thank you.